I would definitely say we should plan with pencils, because if anyone had a plan they were in love with at the top of 2020, they realize how quickly that could be thrown out.
Welcome to the Smart Talk series, the show for professionals who want strategies, tips, and real talk about all things PR, marketing, and social media. Your host is Melissa Vella-Williamson, an award-winning, accredited, and nationally recognized PR pro and communication thought leader. And now your host, Melissa Vella-Williamson.
Hello, and thank you for joining me. I'm Melissa Vella-Williamson, and I'm so excited to introduce you to our very first Smart Talk series. In this 6-part series, I'll share some real talk about topics that matter with industry pros who have a track record of success. One week, I'll explore a topic all on my own, and the next week, I'll bring in a pro or two for a broader point of view. Each series will be 6 episodes, thinking 360 degrees around a theme. First up, we're going to tackle communication strategies for turbulent times. Because I don't know about you, but it's been a crazy 12 months. So to start this topic and this podcast and frame up how to communicate in turbulent times, I really want to take a look back for us to move forward. If we think about 2020, we think about how much the pandemic surprised us as PR pros, marketers, advertisers, communication pros of all sorts. I don't think anyone really expected a COVID-19 pandemic to come and interrupt all of our plans, right? So for 2021, and I know we're a couple months in, but go with me here. 2021, I established one word like my theme for the year, and it has been right on in terms of where I need to focus my intentions and efforts, as well as my team here at MVW Communications. 2021 for us and for our clients, and from what I'm seeing, just about every organization out there, has really needed to be a year of restoration. My word of the year is restore. But I would also tell everyone to think about 2021. And as we get into 2022, even 2023, sorry, y'all, it's going to be a rehab year. There's a lot of rebuilding we need to do. The pandemic created an economic hit and a disruption in supply chain, in our emotional progress, and some of our physical progress as healthy human beings like no other we've seen. It has had equal impact across communities. Different, I think, manifestations of thriving or barely surviving, depending on where they were as people. But I will say that it touched everyone in some disruptive way. Vaccine distribution at this point, it's March, late March. It is really coming out, but it's certainly challenging. The demand for vaccines has exceeded what our supply is here in the US. We're rolling them out. We're doing pretty good. I'm here in Texas. So we just announced by the end of the month, every Texan who wants a vaccine is eligible, and you see me doing air quotes if you're with me, to get a vaccine. That means there'll be even a more increase in demand and our supplies behind. So that really impacts us as communicators when we're trying to plan for what are our events going to look like in quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4 of 2021. What about 2022? What about how people are emotionally feeling about getting back together in crowds? You know, how anxious have some of us become? I know that was something that I set my mind on early in the pandemic. I kind of forecasted using my PR brain, this is going to take a while. And I really have to make sure I'm communicating and networking and keeping my relationships healthy all the way around. And that my clients and all of us who are dependent on these win-win relationships remember how important people are and how important communication between us are, and doing as much as we could to bridge the social and emotional gaps of the lack of in-person communication. It was really about how creative could we be to bridge that gap. So it'll be interesting to see where our anxiety levels are as people and how we can gather together in ways that the public sentiment feels is safe, right? And pivoting has been the big word, right? To pivot, to change. But agility in businesses, organizations has been a significant part of what has made an organization successful. But even someone, those who are really rigid in their processes, rigid in how they like their workplaces and their setups, really struggled. And I would definitely say that the more agile and resilient you can be, the better off your organization and your professional success will probably be as well. One key part of all of this idea of communicating in turbulent times is part of it is we have to have some sense of optimism and hope. People love, a calm nature, a cheerful attitude, someone that says, we're going to get through this and here's how. Laying out the how is really important, but remembering people's why and what motivates them and what makes them feel like success or action forward is possible is going to be really key for us who do communication work. And a big part of that is honing in on and really looking back and sometimes even writing out, like, what are the silver linings when times are a little nutty? What are the silver linings in this chaos? What have you learned over these last 12 months? And now we're getting into 14, 15, 16 months out, right? It's still going to be very different than pre-COVID, and finding those silver linings on those who now worked from home and never experienced that before, who may have embraced walking more, whether that was for stress. I know I've walked my little tail off almost every day and my dog has appreciated that, but a ton more time for some pros working out of their home location to really assess where they were on their health journey, really assess their home environment. There's been a lot of home rehab. Talk about rehab. There's been a lot of home, restoration and rehab. I know we've, instead of going on vacation, we worked on our yard. Not that doesn't have challenges. Make sure y'all put sprinklers in before you put in lawn sod. But there is a lot of silver linings that if you dig deep enough, you'll find them. Some people had more time with their spouses, their partners, their friends in their quarantine or families. Some people just connected as humans in the workplace with their coworkers, with their clients and their colleagues like they never had before, right? Because there were times where I was working and, someone was down with COVID or they had a family member pass away or there was, a staff member and there was a lot of humanity that I think that we could embrace. One silver lining that I found very refreshing as a PR professional and communicator is that clear, relatable, helpful communication really rose to the top as being the most vital and appreciated by the community. If you were passive in your instructions about how COVID impacted you, when your store hours were changing, if you didn't make sure to tell that story consistently across channels, customers called you out on it. Clients you may have felt unsettled and really everyone was evaluating their budgets from the very, small restaurant purchase where we had to maybe go out of our comfort zone to go pick that up or get delivery. And we never had done that before with a certain restaurant, or even with a higher level client relationship where we really were evaluating as in-house teams. Is that a really good use of our budget? And there was a lot of evaluation right now. So those who were clear, those who could forecast ahead and catch the trends and understand what was happening with the public health information, untangling that for each other, those pros really rose to the top. Another key finding or point that I want to bring home to you all is embracing the hybrid nature and reality of our new world is going to be key to a continued success. Be as creative as possible when you think about how can we connect with our customers? How can we connect with our employees who are remote from us? 2020 was certainly very virtual for a lot of us. 2021 has become more and more of a hybrid experience. There are a lot of virtual opportunities that are still pretty amazing. I've been able to talk to college campuses across the US. I've been able to present at a national level with pros across the industry in a way that the pandemic, a silver lining of it, when everyone got on Zoom, when everyone got comfortable with having video cameras on and mics nearby, it really kind of took off the boundaries we had from our zip codes and cities and states. And we're able to connect really across the globe even through this pandemic. But those who do event planning or plan experiences, which is pretty key for most demographics of our customers, those who really plan have to think about what would this experience be like today, in the month we're in, or in the month the event will be in, where could we be with vaccine distribution by then? Right? Where could our community be emotionally? Do they need more of an in-person experience with a small virtual kind of icing on the cake for that? But overall, we want to stay nimble as communicators. We need to be responsive to what's happening in our communities, what's happening with our target buyers, our target customers, the avatars we imagine when we plan for them. We want to build our experiences forward with them, crowdsource their opinions, get information, have them weigh in, do that research, ask. Listen to what they say and build with that community so that you're actually being responsive and they feel that engagement at the front end. You also get that buy-in at the front end of your planning process, that event development process, so that the return on the investment really is likely to happen. In terms of fund development and fundraising, that is key for nonprofits of any kind. It's been harder, I think, ever in the last 12 months, but going further into 2021, as we answer more of those hierarchy of needs where people are, not just concerned at the base level, the basic levels of food, shelter, right? Habitat, their home and how they're doing there, as we kind of get better and restore our communities, asking for donations for nonprofits or topics that are not related to some of those areas will be better accepted and received. But of course, if you can align your nonprofit or tie it to how you're really helping the community, how you were a part of the COVID response, how you were a part of the rebuilding of your area, will be very helpful to your success. Embrace micro-giving if you're a nonprofit. Embrace micro-giving if you're a business owner, small business owner like me, who, you may have to make smaller asks or smaller projects or more tangible connections to, $5 will sponsor one meal for a person in need. $25 enables us to have one day of programming for a child in the community, for example. I know that as a business owner, a lot of us who have been a little more resilient, it's because we've been nimble and moved with the changing times, and we've moved with the changing budgets, and we've accepted more. For example, if you're a PR agency, you've accepted maybe a little more project work, a little more, a la carte consulting work than maybe you had in the past, or maybe you even thought about before. You're looking at paid webinars. You're looking at how else you can monetize versus service, because maybe your clients didn't have that budget for the hands-on service that they did before. So embrace creativity, embrace the hybrid nature of our world, do and use the best of what's virtual, use the best of what's in person, see if you can build connections or new experiences between that intersection. By and large, to communicate well during turbulent times, and especially as we are restoring our communities, we have to understand that hands-on help remains vital. As much as we wanted or needed to go virtual in 2020 and are still in a lot of that space in 2021, humans are still needed, particularly by nonprofits, to pack things, sort things, deliver meals. I work with the local Meals on Wheels organization, and the human element has been vital. They needed volunteers who were still willing to come out throughout the pandemic, pick up the meals, drop them off, check on a high risk, highly vulnerable, usually over 65 years old, resident in need, a neighbor in need. And there's no way we could automate that. For as much as I love AI, as much as I love automation and delivery and everything computer and virtual, there are some aspects that cannot be replicated by a robot or our computers or Wi-Fi these days. So in-person help is still very needed. In order to get that hands-on help when times are tough, in order to get the volunteers to come out, your employees to share some of their time when they are doing something above and beyond what's on their job and task list, we have to continue to communicate why an organization exists, who it serves, and how others can engage, and what's in it for them. No matter what we're doing, particularly throughout an issue that's going on for a long time. I think COVID started as an acute crisis that I think we all thought and hoped would be over within a month or two. We've realized it's a continuation of issues management. became for a lot of my clients and my own business went from response to a new way of operating. But within all that, what really made sense to those we communicated with was when we presented copy and content and visuals and direction that was clear, showed a respect for individual safety, showed a reverence and respect and credible sources and resources around public health, and showed that same respect and value of people. So to best navigate through turbulent times, when it's really bumpy out there, very chaotic, when there's cancel culture circling our wagons, we want to remain calm, have a cool head, work with pros who know about crisis communication, who know about issues management, who can actually help where it matters, I think, sometimes the most, and the action planning around emergency preparedness, emergency management, always looking back at our organizations, what we did, what happened over the last 12 months, so that we can plan forward and move forward. When it comes to planning during turbulent times, we should plan with pencils. Because if anyone had a plan they were in love with at the top of 2020, they realize how quickly that could be thrown out with a disruption like the pandemic. But if you are in that mindset of reiteration and evaluation and a constant move and flex and tweak and bend, planning with that pencil or being really happy to pivot, move, change, erase, that is going to go well for you. We want to analyze, what was that impact of COVID? What did it mean? What kind of education loss did students endure? What kind of soft skills did we lose as professionals? What kind of soft skills did our children lose because they weren't together in classrooms for a few months for some of us, for many months for others of us? And we need to determine, what are the steps forward? How can we be more resilient? What were our weak spots? How do we better them? How do we make them stronger? What do we need to let go of? I think a lot of people during the pandemic had a good time to evaluate on a personal level, what are the relationships that weren't really working for them? And then on the professional level, really evaluate, how can I go from good to great? How do I make this better? Now I'm working out of my home office. Do I have a home office? Do I have a place where I can work if something were to happen to my workplace office? Do we really need to all work in a big storefront or a big office anymore? There was a lot of evaluation of that. And you use that research, that looking back, evaluating what you've done, asking, listening, surveying, testing, right? To analyze, okay, this was the impact. And now with all that data and insight, we're going to take these steps forward towards continued resiliency. We're not done yet. We're still restoring. We're still rehabbing. And we need to diversify how we react in the future. So that's my last big point. To get through the turbulence, we have to be as agile, as I've said it before, I'll say it again, as nimble. And we have to have a diverse portfolio of connections as pros and as people. As pros, we were helping each other find new jobs, ask for leads, ask for business, ask to collaborate. As people, we had more neighbors reaching out to neighbors, which is great. But those who didn't know their neighbors weren't as resilient, right? There was times where we needed milk and eggs and toilet paper. And can I just ride your bike for a minute because I can't find one at the store? As businesses and organizations, we need to diversify our operations. We need in-person, we need remote, we need virtual, we need live, we need taped. We need to communicate on the communication channels that matter to our followers, our customers, our clients, our employees. We need to cut off all the weight that is not necessary for us to take forward, right? Because it doesn't matter, for example, maybe that you communicate on TikTok because that's not where your customers are. We need to diversify how we make money. What are our income streams? As a nonprofit, who are your funders? Who are your donors? Who are your sponsors? Are your programs, did you double down on your programs during this time and really stay true to your mission? Or did you start creeping out a little bit in order to kind of make things work and get the money that you needed to continue operations? Good time to stop and evaluate. If you're a freelancer, if you're an independent, if you're a solopreneur, Are you teaming up with other pros to scale a little bit when you need help or get burnt out? I know this is a big time for PR pros to get burnt out. I myself have found myself saying that over the last 12 months, I've probably worked on more crises and issues and people problems than I ever had in 17 years of my career. Are we making money in a lot of different ways as pros? There's so many ways to monetize content, our thoughts, our leadership. Beyond retainers, beyond long-term projects, there could be little consultations. There can be short-term projects. There can be partnership projects, collaborations. The novelty and the pop-ups and the one-time, or first times during the pandemic and over into 2021, this unheard of, unprecedented, in my air quotes, the first time only, this has been a time where we have never seen so much openness to trying things. Our customers, our colleagues, our clients, they are very accepting of grassroots approaches. Low cost, low quality video is accepted as long as the message is good, the content is of helpful nature, and it's quality. Let's continue to diversify our communication channels, being sure to measure what's actually working for us and not spending a lot of time on what's not. Diversify your customer base. You may have always been working with one type of customer, but you realize, you know what? And I've gone through this with an organization where they realized their customer base was getting a little older and they needed to start really embracing and tailoring their communication and their products and their service, and sometimes even menu items we need to tailor for the generation that's coming up and can be our new customers. Diversifying teams is very important. Diversity in terms of their education, their background, their skill set, their ethnicity, their gender, where they come from, what their experience has been, what they have to offer is really important. That's strength, right? But also diversifying, we've seen in the pandemic because of different little, I swear, like everything that could possibly go wrong sometimes in 2020 and 2021 has seemed to pop up. There's been more issues than I've ever experienced. We even had a snowstorm, 2 days of crazy, crazy snow here in Texas. Phenomenal, historical, hardly ever happens, but of course it would happen within these 12 months. And we even saw diversifying our teams and where they're located, even across areas of town. Some areas of town lost power and water in ways that other areas of town didn't. If you had all of your team members located in San Antonio, for example, or in Austin, for example, and they were impacted by the snow, they're impacted by supply chain issues or delivery issues, you weren't as nimble as teams that had employees across the US or across the globe that had different timeframes they could work on, who had different power or internet or water supply, all the things that had now become kind of our basic hierarchy of needs in the workplace were not always available to us. So diversifying where your teams are also located could be a key way of moving forward and being more resilient. And lastly, diversifying our skill set as PR pros, as marketing pros, advertising, social media, however you communicate is going to be significant to our continued success. I'm working on a podcast. I'm recording something. Never done that before. I listen to a ton of podcasts, but I am embracing where we're going as a society, and I'm embracing the medium, right? So as PR pros, we have to look forward, embrace what's really working, continue to love on all the fundamentals of PR, love on all the fundamentals of communicating through certain channels that really are great for you, really are great for your organization, but embrace new tools and diversify your own skills, continue learning so that you can continue growing. Thanks for joining me on this first episode of the Smart Talk series. Next week, I'm going to be sitting down with an expert to dive further into crisis communication, how to plan for issues, deal with them successfully, and be better on the other side. Until next time, think smart and communicate smart.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Smart Talk series. If you learned something or enjoyed our conversation, share it on social media or send to a friend. To learn more about this and other communication topics, visit mvw360.com. That's mvw360.com.